We're here to feed you guys. We love you guys. But today I was looking at my little girl. Her name's Grace Shalom, and she's 9 months. If you want to grab a seat or hang out in the back so you don't feel like you're on stage. Okay. So real quick, guys, I have a little baby girl. She's 9 months. She's the cutest, sweetest thing ever. And I saw her today groaning, and I heard in my heart, groaning while you're growing, okay? And there's certain things that happen when you're a child, when you're going through a growth spurt. Your muscles and your bones start to develop. So what happens is that's when you're in that place of groaning and growing. And when you're a teenager, what happens, your hormones get released when you're going through puberty. So there's 4 things that I've noticed with my little baby girl in her groaning stages while she's growing. And those 4 things, the first one is when she's hungry, she's groaning. When she's hungry and she wants to be fed, she's groaning on the inside. She wants to be nursed. And that is a groaning stage, and that's a growing stage because she needs to be fed to grow. There's also another stage that I've noticed when she's groaning. Another time she's groaning is when she's teething, and now there's skin, right? And there's teeth, and the teeth are now breaking through the skin and through her gums, and now she's feeling that pain within. So now she's in a groaning state, all right? And then there's 2 other ones that I want to share with you guys. And when you guys start to experience these stages, like as teenagers, it's a lot different than as a child, but they all relate together. So we talked about teething, okay? When something's on the inside and it's pushing through, okay? We talked about being hungry, wanting to be filled, and you're willing to do anything to be filled. So you're groaning, you're crying, you're desperate to be filled, all right? And then there's the stage where you're experiencing certain things in your life where now you're now desperate because you don't have that ability any longer to hold on. So you're desperate to have somebody hold on to you because you're alone and you want attention. So when that happens, you're groaning, you're aching because you want your parent to hold you. You're groaning, you're aching because you want somebody to recognize you and notice you, okay? So that's the 3rd stage. And there's another stage after that I've noticed. And that's the stage where you go from groaning when you don't have and you need attention. You go from groaning when you're teething and something's breaking through, something on the inside's coming out of you, right? You go from groaning when you're not experiencing being filled because you're hungry. And there's also another stage of groaning, okay? And what happens is in these different stages of groaning, there's this pain on the inside. You want to be noticed, you want to have something, and you need something to fill that urge, to fill that craving, okay? So when you're experiencing these different stages of groaning, as a teenager, when a teenager is experiencing needing to be filled, what happens is this. As you need to be fed, sometimes you're willing to do whatever it's going to take to eat. So what happens is you start gorging or binging, but some people, they want to keep their figure. So what happens is after they've gorged and they ate a bunch of junk food, what they do is they put their finger down their mouth and they throw it up so that their figure doesn't change, so that they don't get obese. So sometimes when you're groaning as a teenager to be filled, you fill yourself with a bunch of junk thinking it's going to feel better. Then you put your finger down your mouth and then you throw it up to try to feel better about yourself so that you look better. Even though people may say you're beautiful, you may feel that you're ugly. So that's a groaning stage in being a teenager. Another groaning stage is when you have pain on the inside and that pain's about to come out, okay? And that's that pain of a tooth trying to break through the gum. And there's things on the inside of you that want to come out of you. It's like when silver goes through fire. What happens is all the impurities begin to surface. And when those impurities begin to surface, there's somebody that takes this scooper and he moves all the dross out. Because when there's something inside of you that's bottled up that needs to get out, it's going to come out sooner or later. And when it does come out, you want someone to be there to scoop it. Or you may make yourself into a fool and you may blow it and people may see your cover. Because a lot of people are groaning on the inside for people to notice them. They're groaning on the inside to be recognized, and they're trying to cover over the things that they're trying to hide. And you can't hide for long. If any of you lived in community, if any of you guys lived amongst maybe like 10 of your classmates here, after a few months, your true colors would shine. You can only hide for so long. You can only wear a mask for so long. So in these stages of development, there's this groaning, there's this aching, there's this longing to be known, there's this wanting for acceptance, there's this longing to have somebody take away the pain from you.
Amen.
Because you're holding on to this thing, and this thing's so deep inside of you, and you don't want this thing to come out because you're fearful what people will think about you when you expose your true colors. But I want to share with you about the one that went through being alone, that went through being beaten, that went through being tortured, that was an innocent man that lived his life in perfect love. He never made a mistake with his actions. He never made a mistake in his heart. He was perfect in all of his ways. And his name was Jesus Christ. And he's the Son of God. And when he died on the cross, he took all the pain of humanity upon himself. He took all the sin, all the sorrow, all the bitterness, all the anger, all the hatred, everything that you've ever experienced, that he felt your pain. And the one thing that he went through was holding on to something, because the last one it just finally came back to me. And the last one for the 4 stages of groaning for the baby was when a baby has been nursed and they can't get the burp out. What happens is they're groaning because they have this gas on the inside of them. So what happens is that if you have something bottled up in you, you don't want other people to smell your gaseous fumes. You don't want other people to notice that you got something in you. So what happens, a teenager does the opposite of a child. What a child does is a child groans and cries because they want to be burped. They want that gas to come out of them. But what a teenager does is they pretend it's not there, but it ends up coming out nevertheless. So what Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane, has anybody heard about the Garden of Gethsemane? The Garden of Gethsemane is a place where he anticipated being beaten and tortured and going to the cross to die for our sin. And while he anticipated, he said he sweat great drops of blood. He was so anticipating the agony and the pain and everything he was about to go through, that he not only was sweating, but blood was coming out of his pores. That's how sad, that's how angry, that's how bitter, that's how much fuel was in him that was of sin and death that came upon him, and he was agonizing. He was about to take it upon himself. So he knows what it's like to be bottled up. He knows what it's like to have that stuff shoved down like a trash can, that you take a basketball and you push the basketball down a trash can full of water, and you want to move it all the way to the bottom of the trash can, and guess what happens? You want it to go to the bottom and you want it to stay, but as hard as you try to keep it down, it's going to come back up and hit you. So as much as you don't want your stuff to show, sooner or later it's going to show. But I want you guys to know that Jesus Christ embodied that stuff that you felt. He's felt that pain. He's felt that rejection. He's felt that sorrow. He's felt that insecurity. He's felt that frustration. So I want you guys to know that he took that upon himself. And the next one that we talked about were hunger pains. And when he was on the cross, guess what? He was so hungry and thirsty to have a relationship with you. It said that his tongue was stuck to the roof of his mouth. He was so hungry, his bones were showing. He was naked and exposed, beaten on a cross, hung outside the gate of Jerusalem, fully exposed, fully vulnerable, revealing himself to you as the Son of God, as the Savior of the world. He was humiliated. Guess what it said above his head? King of the Jews. So he's humiliated, being beaten in front of everybody, and his title is King of the Jews. How many kings do you know that have been tortured for you? How many kings do you know that have been lowly and became a servant and died on a cross to give you their life? Not too many, right? What do kings want you to do for them? They want you to serve them, but he didn't come to be served. He came to serve his life to you and become a ransom for all those that didn't deserve it, but he saw your worth.
Amen.
He endured the cross for the joy set before him. Now I want to talk a little bit about that pain that he felt. That pain of bursting through when that tooth is coming out of the gum. What happens is there's this pain rising up, and you're willing to do anything to numb the pain. Some people cut themselves. There's a lot of cutters out there. They want to numb the pain. They want to feel better about themselves, so they're trying to numb what's on the inside that's about to burst out of them. And guess what? That never works, because after you cut yourself and you get that adrenaline rush, you feel horrible about yourself. Some people do other things to try to deal with pain. Some people get radical piercings, some people get tattoos or whatever, and they feel the rush of having their ears, you know, bended, and now they have the ability to have these huge holes in their ear, whatever it may be. People contort themselves, disfigure themselves. They do all these things to their physical body to try to feel like they're alive. He took your pain. It says that he was pierced for your transgressions. He's the one that was pierced for you. It says that he was bruised for your iniquities. He was beaten to a pulp because of the things that you've done that you're worthy of judgment for. He took that upon himself.